Okay, moving on to the last and final segment of today's show. It is time for the Week 8 NFL picks, and we have a bunch of really good games here in Week 8 of this NFL season. Once again, say it every week, but it is just crazy how quickly this season is flying by. Had a great week last week, have so many good divisional games this week, and without further ado, here we go. Week 8 NFL picks. We'll start off Thursday Night Football. You have the Carolina Panthers, who sit in the NFC South with a record of 3-4. They will be at home against the 1-6 Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons coming off just another heartbreaking loss last week at the hands of the Detroit Lions. Carolina has also lost 2 games in a row to Chicago and New Orleans. And going into this game, the Panthers, it's interesting because I think you could make the argument that they've actually had a much better season so far than anyone could have ever expected them to have, even though they're only sitting right now with the record of 3-4. I think Matt Rule has done an absolutely phenomenal job since he's taken over as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, really getting all of his players to buy in to his vision and play some really good football and earn some wins that not a lot of people expected them to get, despite the talent on their roster. And one of those wins, I think, was a couple weeks ago, going on the road to Atlanta and beating the Falcons. They're banged up a little bit. Really, the defense is just super banged up as a whole right now. And the thing about the Falcons is their offense has actually looked a little bit better. Julio Jones played really well last week on the road, or at home, against Detroit. But I'm actually still going to give the Panthers a slight edge here because they are greater than like the sum of the parts. While I feel like when you look at the Falcons, I can't trust them late in games. Teddy Bridgewater is like a poor man's young Drew Brees or Alex Smith. He does a really nice job managing the game. And only 3 weeks after handing Dan Quinn the final loss of his career, I think Matt Rule is now going to do the same thing to Raheem Morris. I like the Panthers to get the win here over Atlanta. How about the battle of the NFC North squads? The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are sitting with a record of 6-0 at the top of the division. They will head to Baltimore to take on the 5-1 Ravens, and we spent already a lot of time on this show talking about this game, and these teams are so good that it's hard not to focus on the imperfections. The running game should be the foundation of the Ravens' attack, but it's pretty hard to imagine it working constantly against a Steeler defense that represents Baltimore's biggest challenge of the season by far. The way to beat Pittsburgh is over the top with passing, and I really hope the Ravens are going to be able to do that. I think this is the game finally where Lamar Jackson steps up. I think he knows going into this game he's going to have to make a bunch of plays, and if the Ravens lose this game, I think they're going to be in big, big trouble in terms of confidence, in terms of where do they go from here, in terms of where do they go with the quarterback position, where do they rank in terms of the contenders of the AFC, because once again, we already saw one of the best teams in the league go into Baltimore in Kansas City earlier this season, and we know how that game ended up for the Ravens. It didn't end up well at all, and now they have another opportunity here with one of the biggest contenders in the league coming into their crib in a divisional battle. I'm going to take Baltimore barely to beat Pittsburgh. It's going to be a phenomenal matchup. I don't think Big Ben has the greatest game. I think the Ravens defense come through, but I'm really not confident at all. Absolutely huge game for the Baltimore Ravens at home against Pittsburgh. How about the Los Angeles Rams coming off a big Monday Night Football victory against the Miami Dolphins? They are sitting here with a record of 5-2. They will head to Miami, South Beach, and just when everyone was beginning to believe in the Dolphins as a potential playoff team, they benched Ryan Fitzpatrick and went on a bye week for the youngster from Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa. It remains to be seen whether Tua is an upgrade, but dismissing the possibility, I think, is foolish. He's entering a pretty fine situation while I think Chan Gailey's offense is perfect for Tua and his quick passing, quick twitch style. The other thing for Miami is their offensive line has improved a lot, and I actually think that is going to be a big reason why I'm going to predict the Miami Dolphins to pull an upset here over the Los Angeles Rams and get the job done and get a victory. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I went on this show just last week and told you guys that I think there's a very good chance the Miami Dolphins could win the AFC East. And I'm not saying I believe that benching Ryan Fitzpatrick was the right move. I'm not saying that I believe benching Ryan Fitzpatrick was the wrong move. All I'll say is I think Tua Tagovailoa, when you look at some of the other quarterbacks in this rookie class and how they've played so far this season with Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, I think if you're a Miami Dolphin fan, there is some reason for optimism around this young quarterback. And I totally understand that the Los Angeles Rams are playing some really good football right now. I actually think that you could make the argument that Jared Goff has been underrated so far this season, given the way he's played. But at the same time, I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about this one. Miami was very competitive with Seattle a couple weeks ago. You have a team in the Rams flying all the way across the country. I think Tua is going to shock the world and get a win in his first game over the Rams. How about the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the New York Jets? And it's going to be crazy because after a few signs of life early against the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets once again became the New York Jets. And whether whose fault that is, right? Whether it is Sam Darnold's or Adam Gaze's fault, Sam Darnold's decision-making just once again remains to be a huge problem. And I think other teams are still making him see ghosts a little too often, unfortunately. I think this is a matchup that plays very well to Kansas City's advantage. Tyrann Mathieu is going to really take advantage of getting the pressure to Sam Darnold, and I don't understand how you could at all expect the New York Jets to come out here and win this game. They right now, I think, still, unfortunately, if you're a New York Jet fan, have 0-16 written all over them. And there's been a lot of talks this week about Trevor Lawrence and whether he's going to make the decision to leave school. And if the Jets get the number 1 overall pick, is he going to want to come to New York, right? A lot of people have been talking about that. And I think right now, there is a very realistic possibility that the New York Jets find themselves with the number 1 overall pick in the draft, because you're going to see it on Sunday, man. It's almost like when you watch the Jets, right? This happens to me a lot as a Jet fan. I'll be watching the game on Sunday at 1 if the New York Jets are playing at that time slot, right? And then at 4:30 or either on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, I'll be out here watching the Chiefs, and I just say to myself, it's almost like a completely different sport out there that they're playing. That's just how good and dynamic this Chiefs offense is. The Jets really aren't going to be able to come close to matching it at all. You got to like the Chiefs big in that one. How about the Green Bay Packers? They are sitting at the top of the NFC North with a record of 5-1. They will be hosting the 1-5 Minnesota Vikings. And this is another matchup where it's actually going to be the second time these two teams have played so far this season. And the Vikings are trading Yannick Ngakoue in the same week that they announced Danielle Hunter's out for the season. And for me, like, that could just really show me that this Viking team is done. Teams facing the Packers this season have no chance if they have no pass rush and no defense, and it's hard to see how all of a sudden the Vikings plan on disrupting Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings corners are all types of banged up. David Bakhtiari should be returning for Green Bay as well. The Packers, I think, are just a significantly better team in this matchup, and Kirk Cousins hasn't really shown me anything to make me think that he could go on the road to Lambeau Field and get a victory. So I'm going to have to take the Minnesota Vikings to fall to Green Bay in this one by a pretty significant margin. How about the next game? You have the Indianapolis Colts. They are actually a team that's coming off of a bye week, sitting with a record of 4-2, right in the middle of the AFC playoff picture. They'll be heading to Detroit to take on the 3-3 Detroit Lions. And I feel like if you ask the casual football fan, what is the Detroit Lions record so far this season? The casual football fan will tell you like 2-4, 2-5. I feel like there aren't a lot of people that realize that this Detroit Lion team is actually 3-3. Maybe it's just because their 2 wins have come over Jacksonville and Atlanta, and along with a early win in week 3 in Arizona. But I really like Matthew Stafford and the way he played last week, the way he was able to get the job done in crunch time, making that throw. I think it's going to continue here. If you listen to this show before the season started, I actually predicted the Detroit Lions to make the playoffs before the season started. And I think the Colts, when you look at them in this game, they're getting healthier just in time for the tougher part of their schedule. Darius Leonard is a guy they're really going to need to get back. He's likely to return this week. Michael Pittman, Kamiko Toure may not be far behind. And I think in this game, Phillip Rivers is really going to have to play well. And ultimately, that's why I'm actually going to pick the Detroit Lions to win this game. They have the better quarterback. and they're at home. And I maybe think that last week, coming off that big-time win over the Atlanta Falcons, when you have a coach like Matt Patricia that really needs to win at all costs in order to save his job, I'm hoping that maybe if you are a fan of the Detroit Lions, this is maybe the time where your team could hit a stride, maybe win a couple games, and get yourselves right in the NFC playoff picture, because there are way worse places to be right now than 3-3. And for the Indianapolis Colts, I think it's as simple as, I just don't trust this team right now. I don't trust their quarterback to get anything done, especially when I believe he's going to have to score a lot of points against a pretty dynamic Detroit Lions offense. I'll take the Lions in this one. Okay, continuing here with the NFL picks, how about the Las Vegas Raiders coming off a tough loss at home to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The Raiders are 3-3, and they will head into this game taking on the Cleveland Browns. So I think when you look at it, even though the Cleveland Browns right now, their record says they are 5-2, I actually think both of these teams are in a very similar position in terms of their overall ability. Baker Mayfield actually played really well last week, and I do think a lot of it could be just the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals never play well against him. He always lights up the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Raiders' defense is not very good, so I think should be able to continue playing pretty well in this game. But I will also say this. I do like how Derek Carr has been playing and how aggressive he's been in recent games, even when it doesn't necessarily work out. I think Myles Garrett needs more help from the rest of his buddies on the Cleveland Browns defense, Denzel Ward as well. Those two players have really been the only Cleveland Browns on the defensive side of the ball that have consistently stepped up to the plate. And this is obviously a 50-50 game. Both of these two teams need the game. I think it's a smidge more important for the Raiders, and their offensive line is getting healthier. I think Josh Jacobs ends up running the ball pretty well. I'm actually going to take the Las Vegas Raiders to go on the road into Cleveland and win this game over the Browns. I think Cleveland is a playoff team. I think right now, the fact that they are 5-2, that's a really good sign if you are a fan of the Cleveland Browns. I just think the Raiders need the game more. I think ability-wise, they're very similar. So I will take the Raiders to go on the road to Cleveland and win. How about the Tennessee Titans sitting with a record of 5-1 at the top of the AFC South? They are obviously coming off their first loss of the season. It was a heartbreaker against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they will head to Cincinnati to take on the 5-1 Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. And I watched a decent amount of the Bengals and Browns last week. I was super impressed with the way Joe Burrow was able to throw the ball, and the Bengals are 12-1 in one-score games under Zach Taylor. And I can't tell if he's the best 19-1 coach of all time or just a massive underachiever. I tend to lean the first one when you consider not only how competitive the Bengals have been, but when you just look at the overall picture of their roster. Joe Burrow and the offense do look better each and every week. And I think when you look at the Titans, their defense has really struggled, especially on third down. I think Joe Burrow is actually going to be able to play pretty well in this game, and I think it's going to be a typical Cincinnati Bengal game in 2020. The Titans are the better team. I think the Bengals are competitive. I think Joe Burrow puts up all of the numbers in the world, but unfortunately the Titans just sneak it out and end up getting the victory. I'm going to predict and go to 6-1. I also really like the chemistry that Joe Burrow has been able to develop with T. Higgins, with A.J. Green likely out the door, and everything that's been going on between the relationship there. I think T. Higgins is a stud. I think he's really up and coming to be one of the league's better receivers, and I think Cincinnati, once again, is definitely going to be competitive in this game. I just think Tennessee, coming off a loss, Derrick Henry running the ball, is going to be a little too much, but I think it's going to be a super competitive game, and I'm looking forward to it. I take Tennessee to win by a field goal. How about the New England Patriots heading to Buffalo, taking on the Buffalo Bills? And here's another interesting stat I want to throw at you guys. Sean McDermott is 0-6 against Bill Belichick in his coaching career. And we all know that these aren't the same New England Patriots that McDermott has faced over the past couple seasons. We know that also Cam Newton is in a deep slump, which started really before his positive COVID test. And I feel like that's kind of distracted us, that the Patriots defense has not been playing well. And that's good news for Josh Allen, who hasn't led the Bills to more than 18 points in any of their last 3 games, which is weird when you consider the fact that he was averaging over 30 points per game in their first 4. Josh Allen's struggles against Belichick are well documented, and the Buffalo defensive shortcomings versus the run could keep this game close. And not only am I going to predict this game to be close, I'm going to predict the New England Patriots to go on the road to Buffalo and end up getting the victory. You guys know that I don't trust this Buffalo Bills team, and why would I ever trust them to beat the New England Patriots? I know the Patriots looked awful last week. I know on the offensive side of the ball, the New England Patriots really don't have that many weapons, which could possibly be a concern if you are a fan. But at the same time, I don't know what it is, man. I just can't trust Bill Belichick. I think he's the best coach in the history of football, and I'm going to take the better quarterback in this game, which I do think is Cam Newton over Josh Allen. I don't know what it is about Josh, man. He's obviously improved, but really, I guess it's just if you can't score a touchdown against the New York Jets, I don't know if I could predict and trust your team to win any victory and to win really any game at all whatsoever. So with that being said, I'm going to take the Patriots to win this game. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think the talk on all these Monday morning quarterback shows is going to be just how good are the Buffalo Bills really, because I do think the Patriots are going to go into Ralph Wilson Stadium in Orchard Park on Sunday and beat them. How about the 4 o'clock games? We'll start it off. The Denver Chargers, they will be hosting the Los Angeles Chargers, and when you look at the AFC West standings, the Chargers sit with a record of 2-4, while the Broncos also sit with a record of 2-4. So the winner of this game is going to be 3-4, while the loser is going to be 2-5, really on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. And there is just so much at stake here, because Justin Herbert, I think he's just been so good over the last couple games, and he's really looking like one of the best quarterbacks to enter the NFL in the last couple of years. I think right now, if you're going to ask me, all right, power rank all the young quarterbacks, Justin Herbert would definitely be at the top of my list. And the Broncos last week, they were embarrassing. The fact that the Chiefs just, their offense wasn't even on par, and they still were able to put up over 30 points. And Melvin Ingram is going to return this week for the Chargers, or he returned last week, which helped against the Jaguars. It's just, you know what it is? As much as I like Justin Herbert, I'm just predicting a bounce-back effort from the Broncos here. Rookie quarterback playing in his first game in altitude in Denver, and, everyone's going to be on the Chargers. I feel that. I'm just going to take the upset here and take the Denver Broncos with Drew Lock back, Melvin Gordon running the football. I really like Noah Fant, everything, the chemistry that's developed there. Hopefully Jerry Jeudy will be able to pick things up. And Denver, even though they only had 2 wins over the Jets and Patriots, 2 teams that aren't great right now, I think they get their first home win of the victory on Sunday with a win over the Chargers. How about America's Game of the Week, 4:30, the San Francisco 49ers head to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. And we've mentioned this a lot about the 49ers. Deebo Samuel's hurt, and that sucks. But the 49ers do have some pieces on the offensive side of the ball right now. You got to love the offensive line and the way they're playing. Kyle Shanahan's play calling. George Kittle's there. Brandon Ayuk has really emerged as a big-time playmaker for this 49er team. And no matter who their running back is, I feel like that guy always just finds a way to get an effective ground game. I'm very curious to see whether a 49er defensive line that has, out of all the units of their teams that are super banged up, I think that could be the top one. And it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to do enough to bother Russell Wilson. The NFL, when you look at it, the league as a whole, this is one of the best rivalries you could think of. The 49ers season already has been a roller coaster, and they're a team that are coming off 2 straight wins. I don't think that continues. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks to step up here just because of the fact that they're playing at home, just because of the fact when you look at their defense, I think they have to be better. I don't know how they can't be better. Seattle at home in a big game, that's usually where Russell Wilson shines, especially coming off a loss. Even though I love San Francisco and really do think they're a playoff team, I'm going to take Seattle at home to win. The next 4:30 game, the Saints heading to Chicago to take on the Bears. I'll just be straight with you. I like the Bears to win this game. And I understand the Bears have one of the worst offenses in the NFL, and there's a decent chance that their top receiver, Allen Robinson, may be out this week, which sets up, to a lot of people, a get-right game for the Saints, especially on the defensive side of the ball. My thing is, I don't trust the Saints' offense to score on the Bears either. I understand that Alvin Kamara is super good, and there is a decent chance Michael Thomas will come back. But the Saints didn't look great last week against the Panthers. There was a decent shot that they would have lost that game. And I do think out of the 4 units in this game, right, the Bears offense, the Bears defense, the Saints offense, and the Saints defense, I think that the most strong unit in this game is the Bears defense. So I will take Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, Chuck Pagano, and company to get the victory. How about Sunday Night Football? The Philadelphia Eagles, they are sitting at the top of the NFC East with a record of 2-4-1. They will be taking on the 2-5 Dallas Cowboys. And with Andy Dalton at quarterback, the Cowboys were the worst team in the NFL for 7 quarters. There's no particular reason to believe that is going to change if Ben DiNucci gets the start on Sunday night. I totally understand that the Eagles are banged up, but they're getting healthier. Jalen Reagor, Jason Peters, Dallas Goedert, Malik Jackson, Miles Sanders all have a chance to return to play this week. Carson Wentz and what he was able to do against the Giants, I think that pushes the Philadelphia Eagles over the edge here, and they get the victory. And then finally, Monday Night Football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the hottest team in the league, they're sitting with a record of 5-2, taking on the 1-6 Giants. Don't really have much to say here, but what I'll say is this. Chris Godwin's going to be hurt, which is a challenge for Tampa Bay. And the New York Giants, I think they have been improved over the last couple weeks, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The bottom line is, even on Monday Night Football in prime time, I don't know if I could see Daniel Jones going to beat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when you just consider the way Tampa Bay has been playing. It will obviously be interesting to see what Joe Judge has in store for his former quarterback, Tom Brady. Obviously, Judge was a part of that New England Patriots staff. So it's going to be a great week of football. Those are the picks, and hope I gave you guys some winners.